Should we get into it?
Yeah. Yeah, what are we talking about?
We're talking about politics today. My favorite topic. We're going to start with our Middle East foreign policy.
Okay.
Yeah, just kidding. People don't want to hear me get into that one. Really what I wanted to talk about today for, episode number 10?
Yes, sir.
Wow, we've made it.
Double digits.
What is that? 10x that and we're at 100?
Nice.
Math.
Math. Not my strong suit. No, I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you've been following it at all or just seen the headlines, just a little bit of update on the MAHA movement and what they're doing.
You kind of filled me in on the banning of color. So is it MAHA? Is it actually RFK policy, or is it a movement that people are kind of grasping onto and being proactive in making these changes? You know, because there was no what fast food chain was it that now uses
Steak and Shake?
Mm. They're using
beef tallow.
Beef tallow,
Yep.
lard, same thing. They're now using beef tallow, but I don't think there was nothing mandated. They were just kind of the first to offer that.
Yeah. Well, they switched to beef tallow, which I've never eaten there, so I may just have to go.
Steak and
check it
Shake's
out.
good.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll have to
What did I
give it a
take
shot.
I just took the kids to Five Guys.
I like Five
It
Guys.
was good.
Yeah.
The fries were great.
Yeah.
$200.
It was like $60 for me and two little kids.
What?
Yeah, 55. I don't know. Yeah, it was. I remember thinking like, oh wow, okay, yeah.
For 2 kids meals?
Good thing I'm rich.
Same. No, so the MAHA movement itself, I think, grasped around a lot of the, let's switch to like the beef tallow.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of sitting in Five Guys with all the rich people. God, looks like we're all rich in here. I see you're all eating well.
If you see anybody in a Five Guys, you know they're millionaires.
Is a valet? Are they not? Where the fuck is the
Do you
valet?
guys validate parking?
Yeah, what's going on here? I see the price of the menu and notice you don't have a valet. Are they sick today?
Yeah. That's crazy. $60 for 3 meals.
Did a burger like your meal deal? Yeah, it like Samuel is double with fries and a drink, $15.
Doesn't it seem like obviously the prices are going up, but it also seems like they're shrinking the portion sizes.
Not the people.
Not the people. Well, that's true, isn't it? Which kind of leads us into a little bit of this topic, because there is an interesting conversation that's happening between, I wouldn't say it's people that are anti any of this stuff, but I don't want to say they're being like assholes about it or arrogant, but there's this conversation going on. And I think it's a legitimate conversation. And we'll get into the other stuff with the MAHA movement, but I'll see people on Facebook or whatever, they're making stat or posts about, just because they want to remove all these food colors, the artificial dyes, whatever from food, doesn't mean it makes it healthy. And they'll go on this kind of like tirade about, there's no such thing as like a healthy candy or anything like that. Or just because they're switching to beef tallow doesn't make it healthier. And then they showed like exponentially, it's like way more calories by using the beef tallow. But I feel like we're missing the point when we have that conversation, because that's what's healthy is a broader picture to paint. And yes, over consuming calories is going to make you gain weight, but I think there's a place for removing bad things from our food. You can overeat on quote unquote
anything
healthy food and gain weight, right? Yeah. So there's both sides of that argument kind of miss the mark. If you think that removing this stuff from foods is going to make it healthy, it's not.
Right, because the answer is not Diet Coke,
right?
Or these calorie. Here's the thing: we've already given plenty of calorie reduction options, and look at the populace; they're fat as shit. So, in terms of saying, well, we changed to beef tallow and it added more calories, so people are going to get fatter more, and like, no, they're not.
Right.
There's plenty of options to get fat now. In fact, although you have these healthy options currently, and hopefully we have more, it's small steps, like small deposits toward the long-term goal, and the problem is not that people are, or I guess the solution is not that you're going to change what you fry the fries in and make people healthy, because people already, 99% of the population, if I just laid out, we have a big spread of food, all types of food, fast food, whole foods on a table, and you told people to go point to the healthy and non-healthy options, most people over the age of 13 would do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
That's not the problem.
Right.
It's not. It's your intake,
Yep.
your discipline, your portion control. That's what it is. So a piece of it, as far as making people choose healthier items, is giving, not having, if it is, let's say color. If we can agree that artificial color isn't a net good and it doesn't matter, there's no positive that comes out of it. If we remove it, well, it seems like a pretty common sense approach to remove it.
Yep.
Same with if we can cost being the same, all things being equal, the fries taste good, just as good or better in beef tallow. Let's cook the fries in beef tallow.
Yeah.
Calories being up or down, the calories aren't the issue.
Right.
It's overconsumption that's
Right.
the issue. So within that consumption, make healthier options. You'll have in the end a healthier net outcome, but still the battle is going to be overall consumption.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're that argument that I saw about, well, look, the fries went from like 400 calories to 900 calories. Okay. Well, what's the point you're making there, that they're better off eating, the whatever they fry it in now, some type of seed oil or whatever it is. Do you still think that person's better off going through the drive-through getting which version? I would argue that it kind of negates itself. Maybe they shouldn't be doing that for every meal. Whatever it is that causes them to gain weight in the consumption, let's go with the quote unquote healthier option in this regard.
If you're getting fat because you're eating French fries, you're going to get fat eating French fries cooked in soybean oil.
Right.
And you're going to get fat eating fries cooked in beef tallow.
Right. I'm interested in, and I don't feel like I've ever seen this because
The problem is eating fries.
Yeah,
You're like
problem's
fucking
eating
eating
fries.
fries.
I've never seen studies that compare or that study the long-term effects of, these types of additives in our foods, whether it's the oils you're frying foods in versus the beef tallow or the food dyes versus not having the food dyes in there. There's a lot of stuff out there now about the food dyes that I see it a lot from like the crunchy granola moms that are kind of part of the MAHA movement, that they don't want those in because it could lead to ADHD, whatever it is, neurological issues going on with those kids. That's fine. Let's just remove that stuff. But have there ever been studies that prove that food dyes are perfectly safe versus not having them in there? That leads to a bigger question. So this crowd that, I don't know if it's because it's RFK and he comes with his own baggage or whatever it is, and they're just automatically against whatever. It's the same thing you see in all politics. This person's bad, so whatever he does is bad. So is that what is happening now with this MAHA movement? Everybody feels the need to take a side and push back. When I look at everything, multiple things can be true at once.
Yeah.
But I would like to see studies that show, because you see people that talk about the studies that show that there's no negative effect acutely from doing these or consuming these types of things like the aspartame, whatever it is. Because you'll see Mike Israetel is probably a person that talks about this stuff a lot, where he says if consuming Diet Coke is going to help you lose weight versus drinking regular Coke, that's good, regardless of what's in it. And I agree with that. But at the same, I don't actually have a stance on aspartame. What I see is people freak out about it, which maybe there is reason to. But again, it comes back to the consumption talk. And these are almost just like tools. How can you navigate and consume foods that are going to help you get to your goal? So let's go with aspartame. What do you think of aspartame?
Let's say if I'm drinking a Diet Coke once a week when I decide to indulge and have a burger and fries, I think there's 0.01% negative effect from that aspartame in that Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, the cumulative effect over time, sure, there might be if I'm having 3 Diet Cokes a day, one with every meal. But then there's probably a lot. It's very acidic. You're getting to a lot of shit that's going to be wrong with, inherently wrong with Diet Coke. There's no nutrients to it. No calories, maybe better than drinking grape juice, which I could argue is healthy. A lot of antioxidants and stuff in grape juice, but there's as much calories as a can of regular Coke.
Yeah.
So, I hate to be boring or like that's kind of what it comes back to is moderation of these things is good. But when you have a populace that's terrible at exercising moderation, and there's healthier options, if it is stevia, monk fruit, sucralose as a substitute for aspartame with with no drawback, societal drawback, but people upset, complaining, or we have the right to have aspartame, which there's always going to be somebody, right? That from the aspartame lobby. Well, that's true. Then I think again, it's a net positive.
Yeah.
To not have, I don't think aspartame is a huge disruptor. I don't think it's a huge endocrine disruptor. What people worry about, or
I see people point to cancer a lot with that one.
Yeah, so I'm not the expert on aspartame. I do know that the studies showing it as a carcinogen have been done in mice, and it's tantamount to giving humans gallons of pure aspartame when you're talking a microdose, in Coke, Diet Coke, Diet Soda. I think when you're from Kansas, you call it Diet. Everything's Diet just Coke. Everything's Coke. Give me a Coke, soda, Pepsi. Yeah, everything's the same. Pop.
We called it pop. Yeah. Can I get a pop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't hear anybody call it pop anymore.
Not here.
Not here. Yeah.
Not here. Not in the classy upscale Missouri.
Yeah.
Compared to that shithole Nebraska and Kansas.
There's an argument to be made there.
But yeah, I think the things like I would consider with aspartame or other artificial sweeteners are gut microbiome and maybe inflammatory response due to negative effects of gut rather than the cancer scare, especially when you're talking the amounts that you're likely getting.
Wasn't it aspartame or sucralose where they showed that it had an effect on gut microbiome, but one of the bacteria that it affected actually helped you lose weight more?
Well, it was sucralose did have an effect on gut bacteria, but actually helped increase a healthy gut bacteria.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we get a lot of, not pushback, but we get a lot of questions about sucralose. And
it's one of sucralose to me is neutral. Like you have it's sucralose. Sucralose, to those that don't know, sucralose, number one, is from sucrose, which is table sugar. It's a modified table sugar that is much, you need much less than sugar as a sweetener. It's about 600 times sweeter than sugar, which is why you need the amount you need nets 0 calories. Cause when you need 600 times less than a gram of sugar, you net 0 calories. But it's made from sugar. That was always Splenda. Splenda is made from, now when you get a packet of Splenda, there's other stuff in there because again, I said there's so little needed of it. So Splenda has some filler in it to make it equal to, I guess, amount wise to sugar. But that was always like the natural option because it was, tastes more like sugar because it comes from sugar. Was their pitch. And then stevia came, and that was, sucralose, I feel like got pushed over with aspartame, erythritol, sugar alcohols. And in that camp, I would disagree. I look at them very differently. Not to say nothing bad about stevia, or although there have been people with microbiome studies done on stevia, which is it's a plant leaf extract. It's as natural as you can get. Same with monk fruit. I haven't seen anything negative, but I think if you just say all bad, I think you're kind of painting with a broad brush. We were talking the other day about erythritol, not in a conversation of good, bad, different, but erythritol is definitely one that if anyone's had an experience with it, man, that stuff can gas you up, bloat you up, and give you the shit, something terrible. Yeah. There's been plenty of people that have gone like, oh, calorie-free candy. This is great. You eat a bag of candy full of erythritol. Yeah. And man, it's like not a diuretic, like it's a laxative. That shit's a laxative. Yeah. It's a colon cleanse. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard a horror story. Somebody bought like the sugar-free gummy bears or something from Amazon, and that it wrecked them. They were like on the toilet all day.
Wrecked them.
Yeah.
Damn near killed them.
Well, anyways, moving on with some of this other MAHA stuff. West Virginia, I saw, was the first state to ban all artificial food dyes and stuff from foods. So
where was it?
West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. Our super rich state, West Virginia.
It just seems like a very rural state. Like, you know what we're going to fix here first?
Well, I guess what I was thinking about earlier while you were talking was these foods are going to exist.
Everyone in the Appalachian Valley said, like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
through their 3 teeth.
That's what they're worried about.
Hey, all of our viewers are from there. So.
Yeah.
Sorry to the Appalachian viewers watching this.
Yeah. If we're going to have like these highly processed foods and stuff on the shelves, it doesn't hurt to make them less harmful if these things are truly harmful. So I don't know why people put up such a fight against it. Now, there's something interesting going on with the sugar lobby, and one of those things is with the SNAP program, which the SNAP program is food stamps, essentially. RFK, I'm forgetting what he's the head of now, but he is putting forth legislation to remove sugary drinks, Cokes, sodas from the SNAP program, which if you're going to have a government program like that, I think it should incentivize people to make better choices. If you're going to be taking taxpayer money, I would like to see that go towards people that can go towards things where people might actually take the time to better themselves. So if you're forced to just use, like on produce, not candy, not soda, anything like that, I think that's better. But there's a lot of pushback going on now because the soda companies obviously don't want to look or don't want to see that business go away, because essentially they're being subsidized by the government at that point, if people are allowed to come in and just buy whatever they want with their food stamps. I've heard stories of people using their food stamps to buy like lobster or whatever, just like high-end stuff. Great, do that. That stuff's better for you than, buying a bunch of like Coke and whatnot. So there's going to be issues with it because it's interesting. There's a conservative side of this where people are pushing back and saying, no, there shouldn't be any more government intervention and
ultimate freedom, yada, yada.
Yeah, which I disagree with, again, because it's already a government program. This exists. So just because another government entity is coming in to try and revamp an already a government program, yeah, let's make it healthy, especially because they invited RFK into the conservative side of this camp.
Yeah, and here's my take on it. I'm 100% pro-freedom. If you want to buy a 64-ounce Big Gulp, then this America, you should be able to buy a 64-ounce Big Gulp to wash down your foot-long hot dog.
Right.
Fine. And then that kind of goes into, and you should pay for your own healthcare too. I don't want to pay for your shitty decisions, but I certainly don't want to pay for your 64-ounce Big Gulp and your foot-long hot dog.
Right.
So I think with the argument, when they spin it around the conservative side, well, this is, you're the party of freedom and people should be free to buy what they want. They absolutely should have that freedom of choice, but we shouldn't have to pay for it. Right. And I think of that stuff when you're talking no nutritional value, right? Other than hydration, which water's free, kind of. Yeah. But you're talking no nutritional value. Like you can get cigarettes at the grocery store too, but we don't subsidize that.
Right.
And it should be looked at the same. And especially they're buying this shit. They're giving their kids this poison. It's not even. I don't even look at it as you're influencing healthy choices. You're just saying we're not going to pay for your shitty choices.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. I don't think it has to be a stance where we want you to eat better. We don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
How about that? How about we don't want to pay with our tax dollars for shitty decisions because that's done all over the place.
Right.
And it shouldn't be any different. It's almost insane that it should be turned around and looked at like, isn't it insane that we subsidize these no zero nutritional value junk for people who need help, they need welfare, they need assistance to buy food.
Right.
We should let them buy food, stuff that's going to sustain them, not the opposite.
Yeah. With that program, it's tough too because and we've talked about it before on other episodes. It's the education that goes along with making these choices. I wonder if you do remove like the junk food portion from SNAP. Is that going to cause more people to look into why they can't do that? Is that going to create a downfall effect of people are going to start taking their nutrition, their choices for their health a little bit more serious?
No,
I don't think so either. But again, back to like the food dyes, removing that stuff from, if we can at least put people in a better position to make healthier choices, I don't see a loss in that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're seeing people talking about trying to get into the weeds about government intervention and all this stuff. Well, they're already intervening in the SNAP program. That is a government program. So it's like you said.
I honestly, I think it is, I don't want to, I hate being negative, but you can take the junk food off the government program, which would be great for the people paying that actually pay for the government program. I don't think it has overall, again, chip away at it, small deposits, over time. But how many people, let's say this, by a portion of population, how many smokers do you have? Okay. Now by a percentage of population, how many people in the SNAP program are smokers? I bet there's more in that program that are smokers than the general population. So we're really deterring, or are we really encouraging them to make healthy decisions? Or are we just saying, hey, we're not really enforcing anything. We're just not paying for your bad decisions. And that's where, as a taxpayer, forget like the MAHA moves. As a taxpayer, it just makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting time because we've never had this much focus on quote unquote health, especially coming from the government level. Is there anything that you would like to see this movement? Because I kind of think they get lost in the weeds with some of the food dye stuff. I will agree to that. I think it's good that they're doing it, but if we take a larger view from our perspective and be in this industry, it's so much more than just that stuff. Is there anything, I also don't want the government coming in and mandating exercise and all this stuff too, but we have all these educational programs supposedly through the government. What's wrong with having, back in the day when JFK was talking about it, having healthy kids? Is there something you would like to see in that regard? Because you remember doing what is the presidential
physical fitness test?
Yeah. Right. I don't see a lot of fit people that today they're like, it's because I was in that program or I had to do whatever amount of push-ups when I was in second grade.
Right. What's the effectiveness of it?
Yeah.
That's a good question, Tyler. I don't like how to fix that. That's a big ball of yarn to unwind because how well was the DARE program at keeping kids off drugs?
Yeah.
I remember we had a dorky cop come in a red police car.
Yeah.
But I don't remember kids, getting into high school going like, I was going to do drugs, but
no, I'm not.
But no, I'm not. Thanks to the officer.
After that 3-paragraph essay I wrote about not doing drugs.
Yeah. Did we going to put it up if you can find? Did you guys have the DARE program?
Yeah.
Do you remember the same cop came in, like it was like once a week or once every 2 weeks, and to start his presentation, he played a video. Did they do this to you?
I don't remember.
He played a video. Luke, please find it. They played a video. It was like a DARE song, but it was like a music video, and all the band members were cops. I'm like in fifth grade thinking like this is hilarious.
I'm trying to remember the song. It's like I won't do drugs.
No, this is like
maybe this
DARE
is the version I have.
To keep a kid off drugs. Ooh, DARE. Is that good? Is that coming through good?
It was good.
Nailed it.
Oh, it was. That's why I sound like T-Pain. Please find it. Okay, it's not on my playlist. Otherwise, I'd play it for you. But like, how effective is a government? You have to have the will of the people, and like, people don't want to be healthy. Yeah. You can go. People go to their doctor. It's not like they wake up and think I'm healthy as shit, and they look in the mirror, they're 300 pounds, and it's like denial. Like, they know it, they just don't care.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the government program is to get people to care.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Not paying for it would be a good first step.
Yeah. I would
not having it available when you're talking, if you're talking the food dyes and stuff, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
These dyes in our food makes no difference. Other countries don't do it. Why we do it? It's because of the big food, big pharma.
Yeah. And doing some kind of a government, there's going to be some kind of a government overhaul or some kind of a campaign, which they never work. Let's be honest. Because Michelle Obama tried hers when Obama first got into office, and they completely bastardized it, and they turned pizza sauce into a vegetable or fruit because it was a tomato. So they kept all that stuff the same, but said they did something. I mean, obviously, the first ladies, they have to rubber stamp, like, oh, I'm working on this. It didn't do anything. And I'm sure maybe she probably actually wanted to do something to make some change, but you get in there, you got all your lobbyists, all that stuff that have money to lose.
Way too much red tape.
Yeah, they won't let it happen. But and it's interesting now because they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education, which I'm for. But you think of the PE programs, all that stuff. If it's going to go down to the state level, it's just going to depend on who's running these programs and what they want to emphasize. But how do you get the people that I think make the most sense into this type of industry or this type of bureaucracy to make that change? Like, what if you put Andy Galpin, Mike Israetel, and all these people in charge of like influencing this type of stuff?
That's what I said. You're talking about influencers. The only way you really make a change is not by policy or dictation to people on what to do. In fact, I think people resist that.
Yeah.
But if you can make it popular, if you can make it cool, you know, make fitness cool again. If that was, you know, I'll give you an example, and you can argue whether the president, you know, the politics of it, but you had like, you see it now. You had like a hippie movement where it was like the long hair, don't care, sloppy dress, because that was cool. You know, that was the hippie movement. And then Reagan came along, and he was sharp dressed, high and tight haircut, had his shit together, and guys cut their hair. There was a movement of change, whether good, bad, the policy that came along with it. So that's the kind of movement you have to have where it's not, I think like in America, it's cool not to care. It's cool to be lazy. It's, you know, it's fucking not.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. There should be some personal pride and some care in your appearance and how when that becomes cool, when that becomes the popular thing to do, and the only way you do that isn't through policy, but it's through influence.
Yeah.
And it's a people's movement. It's not a government. The government can.
It's a big cultural thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really what it is.
It's like what we're seeing now with the younger kids. It's cool to kind of be on the Trump side of things, to rock that, where previously it was whatever the left wing's view.
Yeah, because Obama was so
really
cool.
Right.
Obama was really cool, and he influenced a lot of people. It wasn't necessarily about his politics. In fact, the political difference between Trump and Obama ain't that much.
Right. Shots fired.
But as far as like both these guys are pretty cool, you see the swing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. That's when you vote for, you know, the president of your high school class.
Yeah.
It's a popularity contest.
What's interesting about that, though, you have the two sides of the spectrum, but within each side of those spectrums, there are people that want to be healthy, that think we should emphasize those things, but it's just interesting that we can't come together as a mass to really incentivize those, whether it's, you know, culturally or through government, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's I think what we're missing. Like I said, always goes back to the education. We don't have that stuff.
Who is our fittest president?
I don't know.
George Washington.
He was a stack house, so
you know how like smoking is.
Lincoln was a wrestler.
Yeah, he was like a fighter, right?
He's a wrestler. I don't know.
He would like fight people sometimes.
Teddy Roosevelt was like a big outdoorsman, right?
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
So like smoking, like my grandparents, big smokers. My parents, not big smokers. And I feel like that's pretty common for those generations. Do you guys see a world in where it's like kids grew up with fat parents and just like smoking? They don't want to repeat.
I think it's a possibility for sure.
And alcohol. I mean, Gen Z's not drinking any alcohol.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked, I think, on one of the first episodes. You see the parents that are also extremely overweight, and then what they have walking right behind them is an extremely overweight kid. So, but I don't also see people that have super fit parents, and those kids end up being obese or whatever it is because they want to do it out of like, oh, my parents were like this, so I want to be the opposite of that. There's probably is. I'm not saying there's not, but I feel like that would be
with the smoking with the food. It's just like that's what the kid was. I was like, it's never the kid's fault when you talk about an overweight kid. That's like the saddest thing because not only are they like metabolically unhealthy at a very young age, but gosh, those habits and the addiction to the sugars and stuff, like, boy, that's ingrained.
Yeah.
That's ingrained in the first 2 to 3 years of your life. That becomes a very, very hard thing to undo.
Yeah. Do you think we could ever get back to, and I should look into this more, but I always talk about that JFK speech where he's talking about, you know, we don't want to have fat kids. We want to have a healthy population because that's better for the future. And they always, show this footage of, I think they were schools out in California where all the guys are just running across the yard. It's a PE class, but they're just doing like calisthenics all over the place, and they're doing like bar muscle ups and stuff. They're going across the monkey bars. I would actually like to see, not mandated, but I'd actually like to see stuff like that prioritized in schools. You can obviously start and make it fun for the little kids, but there's only upsides to try.
Should there be a physical fitness test for a physical education instructor?
Yeah.
Is there? I mean, is that like a litmus test for practice what you preach?
I think so. Again, I don't think there's any way you should mandate that, but if you're going to be a teacher in that regard, it's not a bad idea.
It's certainly kind of tough to tell kids what to do when you don't follow your own. Clearly, you're not following your own physical education or health habits.
Yeah.
You know that you don't have those habits you're preaching.
Right.
Yeah, I think for kids it's endemic. It's everywhere they look.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, if you were, this is, you know, I'm 43 years old, so this is in the 90s, 80s, 90s. Like, there might be an overweight kid in class, you know, and you kind of stuck out. Now I think kids are just heavier.
Yeah.
They're just bigger kids.
Yeah.
You know, I see it when we go to our kids' sporting events and their classrooms and stuff. Still plenty of fit, you know.
Yeah.
Coach wrestling got a lot of fit kids and stuff, but they looked at, you see pictures of the beach, you know, from the 80s to the 2010s, 2020s. Like it's very different.
Right.
You know, just as a populace.
Gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. It was along like physical education, schools, all this stuff. They've cut back on recess time. They've cut back on a lot of physical activities for kids. I remember in high school, like the PE classes, we had advanced weight training. That was for the athletes. You had to get into that class. Otherwise you had to go take regular PE, but it's turned into babysitter hour. I think all public education is really just babysitter hour at this point. But they're not doing anything in a physical education class that's educating them on the benefits of any of this stuff. They're playing, you know, they're getting on those little roller boards on their stomachs and going across the gym, hitting a ball.
Just encourage movement.
Yeah. And every now and again, you'll see them, they have to do like a mile test, but they're allowed to walk the mile. There's no standards, but there's also, we know all of these great benefits of exercise, for kids, especially, you know, on their concentration, getting all that energy out, all that stuff. So there's only good positives that can come from, you know, kind of a robust physical education program. But I don't see a desire, or nobody really focuses on that.
Again, I think it has to come from the people, the parents. I don't think the government program, which is education, the education system, you can't go tell 8, 10, 12-year-olds how to be healthy and they start doing it.
Yeah.
It has to be a popular movement that the community is behind, and then the schools adopt it and go. It doesn't happen. I don't see, maybe I'm pessimistic. I don't see it happening the other way around. Like, oh, you know what? Samuel's PE teacher said that we need to get out for a walk in the morning, and I never really considered that. You know,
right.
I think it's gonna have to be education, but it's not like shit. There's more information out there on physical fitness stuff than there ever has been in history.
Yeah.
And it hadn't if it's education that we're missing, boy, what's it going to take?
Yeah. It starts with the people at the top too.
Gotta be popular.
I think of the nutritionists at an unnamed college that just follows the food pyramid of how you should fuel as an athlete. Like if you're following backwards information, which we know is all backwards at this point, the food pyramid was funded by, food lobbyists, all that stuff, because they had grains to sell. They had sugars to sell.
They did, but let's, sorry to interrupt. Use that as an example. If you follow the food pyramid and actually did the guidelines, the 2 to 3 servings, just like didn't eat if people follow like that, is that the best guideline? I'd say no. But if you followed it, you wouldn't be in the situation you're in today. What's at the top? All the sugary, starchy, all the shit, like whole grains at the bottom. Okay. Maybe you replace that with fruits and healthy proteins and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you ate within those restrictions, and there's always a suggested calorie, right? It's pretty blanket. But if people did that, you would have, so I think you could change the food pyramid. You could change, maybe, like I said, I'm being very pessimistic. I just have, when it comes to, people's own health and well-being, they don't seem to give a shit.
Right.
A lot of people just don't,
Yeah. That's the sum of its parts too, because like you said, there's the calories that still go into it. So yes, if you were following the food pyramid and you still ate in a calorie deficit, yeah, you'll be better off than what you were doing before. But like what would happen if and I don't even know how school systems are set up for this type of stuff, but if you put in some like a strength and conditioning coach, you put in an Andy Galpin to be the head of whatever portion of physical education, that entire program would probably change for the better, as opposed to, and this isn't shade at teachers or anything, but as opposed to a PE teacher that just went and got their education degree, because you're not taking a lot of valuable exercise science classes of physical education teacher that you can then go in and turn into a curriculum for your students. You're literally just, you're checking off the boxes to get that degree, and then you're going to go and do whatever the curriculum tells you to do as a PE teacher. So you need somebody from the top that's actually going to kind of change that structure as far as, just the physical education program itself. And that, to me, that should include class time too, not just.
Well, I was going to say, this is an argument. Should, you've heard like of school systems removing physical education. I'm not for or against it. But the reason I'm not against removing it is should it be this separate class where you go and play kickball as a class?
Right.
It's kind of recess.
Right.
That's why I like PE. I didn't go because I was learning about physical education and health. I went because that was playtime.
Right.
And I liked recess too. And to me, they were kind of one and the same. One was an organized one where we all had to do the same activity, and the other was free time.
Yeah.
But it was all play.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, but could it not be done in the classroom? I don't know. Again,
well, if you want to engage more kids, if we're just talking K through 12 or whatever, you have to make it fun somehow. So like you talked about recess. Recess was fun. PE was fun. And I've seen a lot of stuff now trying to get kids, for like athletic training. I'm seeing a lot more stuff. You can't do it so structured where you're running it like you would for adults or adult athletes, whatever it is. You kind of got to make games out of it, but get the point across of the game of why we're doing this. So, we probably need to see more stuff like that. But again, it's a top-down change, and you have to put the right people in place. Yeah. A lot of the times when they make these types of changes, they're still putting in people that really don't have any business running that type of a program.
Yeah. It overall, I think it needs a culture change. That's the best way you put it. We need a culture change to make that the popular, the cool, the in thing to do. And in that regard, I think because it's in the conversation so much, because of RFK and the political popularity he got by endorsing Trump and all, there's a lot out there information wise, but I guess the information part, that's never changed, but there's a lot out there in the conversation. And I feel like it is as popular as it has been in my adult life to be fit, and I think that's the wave you want to continue to see.
Yeah.
And whether that turns into policy and stuff, great, but I don't think it starts with policy and ends up with popularity.
Right. Yeah. There's small changes that are happening. I don't think it's ever going to be to a great enough effect where culturally there's a difference made culturally.
The popularity will drive policy, just in anything else. Popularity of alcohol ended prohibition.
Yeah.
It wasn't the government saying, hey, you know what? I think we're going to reverse. We're going to start this or reverse it. Popularity is going to drive policy.
Yeah. So we'll find out what happens. Again, there's right things being said. But there's still a lot of things that aren't being talked about because it's just not the food that's going to make people healthy. It's not.
No, I mean, this is a whole nother podcast, but you could get into like the peptides and hormone therapies and stuff in terms of medicine and preventative medicine, and things we're not allowed to look into because, preventative medicine is very disruptive for corrective medicine.
Yeah.
And so what does it look like for peptides that have very good healing rates versus a surgeon that has a good healing rate, but there's you getting cut out. So that's a whole nother, hormone therapies can possibly correct a lot of metabolic diseases, but because those things are ostracized and illegal and stuff, there's been no development over the last 35 years. So that's a whole nother part of it.
Something I forgot to mention on the last episode when we were talking about TRT, and I'm blanking on what it was completely, but they removed some kind of a warning away from TRT, and I think it had something to do with like just the risks, the cancer risk or anything like that. So I think TRT is actually going to become it's mainstream as it is, but I think the pushback against it's going to drop even more because they removed like the warning label from using testosterone and all that stuff.
The really interesting thing on the, not to get completely off here, so probably for another podcast, but on the TRT front is, and I've seen more and more stuff like this. I'm sure it's my algorithm too. But I've done this for a while, but I'm seeing it more now where the risk of low T is being talked about, you know, where it's like, if you are at risk for prostate cancer, you had prostate cancer, it's like, you know, don't even attempt to get your testosterone level up and forget about, you know, any exogenous testosterone, because that's a cancer bomb waiting to happen, when actually quality of life, longevity, even your cancer risk is better with, surprise, a healthy level of testosterone. That's how your body was meant to function. And so I'm actually doing it right now for my website and email series, doing an article on healthy testosterone levels, and kind of what we talked about it a bit, but what to look for to optimize your testosterone level. Just very simple things you can kind of check the box to optimize your testosterone. If you get tested, you find out you're low. If you get tested, you find out you're normal but want to be optimal. Or if you're very low and you've taken the steps, then what's the next step to take if the answer for you is testosterone therapy. So that's something I'm working on.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. Get on the testosterone, people. Luke, where are we at?
45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, sometimes these things just fly by.
I know you guys are going to make me edit like half of it out this.
Well, that's your problem, not ours. All right. We'll see you guys on the next one.
There, take you.